The date is January 29th, 2022, and we're at the Schrock Road Railroad crossing in Worthington, Ohio. Here I caught NS 234 as it was heading south on the Sandusky District. NS 4007 and 4199 are both rebuilt GE AC-44 C6Ms. NS 4007 was originally built in 1995 as a standard cab GE C40-9. It was delivered to NS as their 8814 and was rebuilt in 2016. NS 4199 was originally built in 1996 as a GE C40-9W. It was also delivered to NS as 9008 and was rebuilt in 2019. On this day, I was up here because I had some errands to run, and while I was up here, I figured I'd catch some trains while I was at it. As 234 rolled by, I happened to see a set of container trailers loaded up onto one of the sets of spine cars. After catching 234, I then made my way down to the Lincoln Avenue Railroad crossing, where I believe I caught NS 234's counterpart, NS 233. NS 7669 is a GE PS44DC built in 2007. NS 1102 is an EMB SD70 ACE built in 2014, and NS 4291 is a rebuilt GE AC-44 C6M. 4291 was originally built in 1997 as a GE C40-9W as NS 9128. It was rebuilt as it is now in mid-2020 at NS's Juniata shops. After 2:33 got by, I didn't see any other trains for the rest of the day. The next day, on June 30th, I found myself at the Philippi Road Railroad crossing. On this day, I heard from heritageunits.com that NS-170 had NS-4000 at the point. NS-4000 is what rail fans call the Sonic Bonnet due to the blue and gray paint scheme that it wears. The engine is the class leader of the rebuilt GE AC-44 C6Ms, being rebuilt in 2015 at the American Locomotive Power Inc. plant in Dansville, New York. It was originally built in 1995 as a GE C40-9 standard cab, originally numbered NS-8799. Besides 4000, NS-4001 also wears the Sonic Bonnet paint scheme, as it was the second AC-44 C6M to be rebuilt. Now, let's head back in time to when I caught this engine before it was rebuilt. The date is now January 1st, 2015. On this day, my dad, brother, and I were out on the hunt for trains, and at the old Duval Road Railroad crossing, we found what I believe to be NS-29G dropping off a cut of intermodal cars at Rickenbacker Yard. Leading the train was NS-9521 and NS-8799. We then later caught 29G just south of the Main Street Railroad crossing in Asheville, Ohio. NS-9521 is a GE C44-9W, built in 2000. As of today, it is still a C44-9W. By the end of the year, 8799 will end up in New York and be rebuilt as NS-4000. This footage was featured in John's Train Adventures Season 1, Episode 26, New Year's Day Rail Fanning. Returning back to 2022, just ahead of Train 170 was NS-26Z, another manifest freight train. Soon I saw 26Z beginning to roll down the line, so I went after it. I caught it at LM Cabin in downtown Columbus. We'll now watch the train as it goes from the Dayton district to the western branch to get to Watkins Yard. Acting as the power on this train was two NS locomotives along with a pumpkin in between them. All three engines are GE C44-9Ws, NS9382 being built in 1999, BNSF 5372 being built in 2000, and NS9768 being built in 2003. From what I've seen, NS26Z used to be a dedicated intermodal train back in the past, but as of today now pulls in FEC as a manifest freight train that includes intermodal cars. Today's 26Z doesn't have any intermodal cars on board, but the remaining cars that are on today's train will be dropped off at Watkins Yard. As usual with manifest freight trains, many interesting cars are usually on board trains such as these old Sioux Line grain hoppers, here's something interesting, an old Norfolk and Western steel coil car. There are also a few more N&W steel coil cars on board this train too. The usual Conrail steel coil cars, along with gondolas, there was also a cut of steel coil cars without their covers. Near the rear of 26Z was a section of Chicago South Shore and South Bend steel coil cars. While Elm Cabin is a great place to see trains at, it is in downtown Columbus. So if you ever plan on seeing trains here, I highly recommend going with a small group or when you know a train's coming. Many other people tend to hang out around here and they might not be too friendly to other people, to put it mildly. In other words, just be careful when hanging out around here. As a matter of fact, while I was out here today, I actually found a new and bit safer place to see trains here at Elm Cabin. I'll show you guys that place in a little minute. Once 26Z got by, I then drove back to check on train 170. 170, if you guys saw earlier, didn't have a crew on board and was waiting for one. When I got back to train 170, it still didn't have a new crew. So I started driving back into downtown Columbus to look at that new location. While I was driving down Mckinley Avenue eastbound, I saw a line of grain cars crossing Mckinley Avenue on CSX's Scotts-Long Secondary, so I quickly turned around and caught the train at the McKinley Avenue/Harrison Road intersection railroad crossing. CSX 362 and 493 are both GE AC-44 CWs, 362 being built in 1998 and 493 being built in 2000. From what I was able to find out, CSX G017 is a twice-weekly grain train, depending on the season. It runs from Parsons Yard in Columbus, Ohio, to the Heritage Cooperative Grain Silo just southeast of Marysville, Ohio. Once done up there, the grain train will then return to Parsons Yard later on. Although manifest trains tend to have more interesting cars on them, sometimes other trains, such as this grain train, can have cool cars as well, such as this old Chicago, Rock Island, and Pacific grain car. If you guys saw the refrigerator cars down the second track, that's part of Y102, a local train that serves industries in the Columbus, Ohio area. As G022 was rolling by, the power of Y102 was serving their customer, FP Supply Company, possibly dropping off some loads for them. The power of Y102 for today was CSX 3281 and 3398, both GE ET44AHs, 3281 being built in 2015 and 3398 being built sometime between 2016 and 2017. Just after G022 got by, the power of Y102 got done serving FP Supply and reconnected to their train. Once recoupled, the train got back underway to head back to Parsons Yard. After Y102 got by, I then went to the new location I found. Located on May Avenue, just off of West Broad Street, is the recently opened Gravity Garage. For a small fee, Gravity Garage is a new public parking garage that provides public parking for people wanting to visit this area of town. For the rail fan, it now provides a great view of LM Cabin. From the top deck, it provides great photo or video opportunities for both the NS Dayton District and Western Branch, and CSX's Scotts-Long and Columbus subdivisions. You can even see Burt Line trains, as well as they use the Columbus subdivision. Unfortunately, for the time being, the train action had dried up. Oh well, the next time I know something will come through here, I'll make sure to come here to catch it. Anyway, after exploring the parking garage, I then decided to go and see what remained of the once mighty Buckeye Yard. Located along Fisher Road on the west side of the former yard, drivers will pass this sign marking the entrance to NS's now abandoned thoroughbred bulk transfer facility. On the west side is the standard NS sign, but recently on the east side of the sign, the NS stuff has fallen off to reveal this. Apparently, this sign was built back during the Conrail era, and they called it the Columbus Bulk Transfer Facility. After looking at this piece of history, I then drove over to the Tribune Road overpass. From 1969 all the way up till 2008, this yard served as a major classification yard that served under Penn Central, Conrail, and later Norfolk Southern and CSX transportations. When the split-up occurred in 1999, Buckeye Yard was also split up as well, with the classification part of the yard going to Norfolk Southern and the intermodal section of the yard going to CSX. Sadly, in 2008, Norfolk Southern mothballed the hump yard part of Buckeye Yard, as carload traffic by that time was on the decline. Most trains that needed to be classified in Columbus were now moved to Norfolk Southern's Watkins Yard. Despite the hump closing, Buckeye Yard still served Norfolk Southern as a storage yard and even as an interchange point for the Camp Chase Railroad. Not to mention that despite most of the train traffic moving to Watkins, trains such as 170, 171, 178, and 179 still used the yard. As stated earlier, Train 170 and its counterpart Train 171 are manifest trains that run from Chattanooga, Tennessee to Conway, Pennsylvania, and Trains 178 and its counterpart 179 are also manifest trains that run from Irondale, Alabama to Bellevue, Ohio. Since these trains back in the day didn't travel close to Watkins Yard, it only made sense to keep Buckeye as the yard of choice for these 4 trains. There were also a few other trains that used Buckeye Yard as well, but they have now been abolished. Unfortunately, 2021 would prove to be the last year NS would use the yard. That year, the interchange point for the Camp Chase Railroad was changed from Buckeye to Watkins Yard. Despite the odd routing and having the engines of all 4 trains facing the wrong way when entering or leaving, NS trains 170, 171, 178, and 179 were all moved to work Watkins Yard. With all the trains now moved, Norfolk Southern permanently closed their section of Buckeye Yard for good. With the yard now closed, NS hired National Salvage and Service Corp to remove all the tracks in the yard. Throughout 2021, NS and S worked through the year to remove every inch of rail that wasn't going to be used anymore. The only things that will remain of Buckeye Yard will be the intermodal yard that CSX operates and some connector tracks at both ends of the yard. All the land here will probably be turned into urban sprawl later on. After seeing the remains of Buckeye, I then hopped on Facebook, where I saw a post about a southbound grain train on the Burt line. So, I decided to drive up to Cook Road to see it. The Cook Road Railroad crossing is a well-known spot by Columbus rail fans, not only because of its ease of access to NS's busy Sandusky district, but also because it is the home of these ex-New York Central tricolor light signals. For many years, the Burt line, also known as the Columbus Line subdivision by CSX, was home to many of these ex-New York Central and ex-Conrail tricolor light signals. Unfortunately, as of 2022, many of these signals on the BERT line are now on borrowed time, as CSX is replacing them with more modern signals. This will be the replacement signal for Cook Road on the BERT line. Unfortunately, since I took so long to get this video out, as of April 17th, 2022, all the old ex-New York Central / ex-Conrail signals south of Delaware have now been cut over and replaced to the newer signals. While the old signals north of Delaware still stand, as of the making of this video, it probably won't be long before those signals are replaced as well, or are replaced by the time this video comes out. Soon, the headlights of the grain train appeared in the distance, and I got both my cameras set up to watch what might possibly be the last train I'll ever see pass these signals. CSX 3322 is a GE ET44AH built in 2015, and CSX 725 is a GE ES44AC-H built in 2007. CSX Train G017 is an as-needed grain train that runs from the small Chicago, Fort Wayne, and Eastern Yard, known as Crestline Siding in Crestline, Ohio, down to Parsons Yard in Columbus, Ohio. I believe that G017 serves the Sunrise Cooperative Inc. Crestline Grain Silo on the west side of Crestline, Ohio. We'll now move to the second camera. Here I had my second camera set up to capture the signals lighting up as G017 rolled by. as G017 continues down the hill, this brings us to the end of yet another video. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys have a good day. See you later.